Throughout the history of crime in Britain, there have been many evil minds committing foul deeds that have struck terror into the heart of society. But one stands above all for their infamy and sheer rage and bloodlust. This is the story of Jack the Ripper. Today we might find it hard to think of a Ripper-like murder going unsolved, but the world in the late 19th century was a very different place. In the mid-1800s, Britain experienced an influx of immigrants who swelled the populations of major cities. Whitechapel in London's East End became increasingly overcrowded by 1888, and conditions were appalling. A significant economic underclass developed. Robbery, violence and alcohol dependency were commonplace. Poverty drove many women into prostitution to survive, and according to police records, there were 62 brothels and 1,200 women working as prostitutes in the Whitechapel area in 1888. The large number of assaults against women in the East End during this time makes it difficult to link the victims to the same individual. 11 separate murders from the 3rd of April 1888 to the 13th of February 1891 were investigated by the London police in what became known as the Whitechapel murders. Opinions vary as to whether these murders should be linked to the same culprit, but 5 of the 11, known as the Canonical Five, are widely believed to be the work of the Ripper. The body of Mary Ann Nichols was discovered at around 3:30 a.m. on Friday the 31st of August 1888 in Bucks Row, Whitechapel. Her throat was severed by 2 cuts, one of which completely severed all the tissue down to the vertebrae. Also, she had been stabbed twice in her privates, and the lower part of her abdomen was partly ripped open by a deep wound, causing her bowels to protrude. Nichols' body was moved into the Old Montague Street mortuary at 5:20, where it was examined by a Dr. Llewellyn. Llewellyn estimated the injuries would have taken 4 or 5 minutes to complete, and that Nichols was facing her attacker when her throat had been cut. An inquest returned the verdict of willful murder against persons or persons unknown. Mary Ann Nichols was buried on the afternoon of 6th of September 1888 in an unmarked grave, which was later marked with a plaque in 1996. 1 week after the murder of Nichols, the body of Anne Chapman was discovered on Saturday the 8th of September 1888 at approximately 6 a.m. Her body lay near the steps of the doorway of the backyard of 29 Hanbury Street. Like Mary Ann Nichols, Chapman's throat had been severed by 2 deep cuts. Her abdomen had been cut entirely open, with a section of her flesh from her stomach being placed upon her left shoulder. Dr. George Bagster Phillips, a police surgeon, conducted a post-mortem and quickly established a link between Chapman's murder and of Mary Ann Nichols. The press dubbed the killer Leather Apron, which led to multiple suspects. A leather apron belonging to John Richardson lay under the tap in the yard of 29 Hanbury Street, but this apron had been placed there by his mother, who had washed it a couple of days before the murder. John was investigated and later eliminated as a suspect. A 38-year-old Polish Jew who was known as Leather Apron was arrested and questioned, but he too was eliminated. On the 27th of September 1888, the Central News Agency received a letter dated on the 25th of that month, which read the following: Dear Boss, I keep on hearing the police have caught me, but they won't fix me just yet. I have laughed when they look so clever and talk about being on the right track. That joke about Leather Apron gave me real fits. I am down on whores and I shan't quit ripping them till I get buckled. Grand work the last job was. I gave the lady no time to squeal. How can they catch me now? I love my work and want to start again. You will soon hear of me with my funny little games. I saved some of the proper red stuff in a ginger beer bottle over the last job to write with, but it went thick like glue and I can't use it. Red ink is fit enough, I hope, ha ha. The next job I do, I shall clip the lady's ear off and send it to the police officers, just for jolly, wouldn't you? Keep this letter back till I do a bit more work, then give it out straight. My knife's so nice and sharp, I want to get to work right away if I get a chance. Good luck. Yours truly, Jack the Ripper. Don't mind me giving the trader name. P.S. Wasn't good enough to post this before I got all the red ink off my hands. Curse it. No luck yet. They say I'm a doctor now. Ha ha. At the inquest into Chapman's murder, Elizabeth Long described seeing Chapman standing outside 29 Hanbury Street at about 5:30 a.m. in the company of a dark-haired man wearing a brown deerstalker hat and dark overcoat, and of a shabby, genteel appearance. The Ripper would then strike twice in one night in what became known as the double event. Both Elizabeth Stride and Catherine Eddowes were murdered in the early hours of Sunday 30th of September 1888. Stride's body was discovered around 1 a.m. in Duckfield Yard off Burner Street in Whitechapel. The cause of death was an incision across her neck that severed her artery. The absence of further mutilation to her body has led to uncertainty that the Ripper had committed the murder, or whether he had been interrupted. Several witnesses informed police that they had seen Stride in the company of a man in or close to Burner Street on the evening of the 29th of September and in the early hours of the 30th, but each gave differing descriptions, some saying that the companion was fair, others dark, some that he was shabbily dressed, others well dressed. 45 minutes after discovering the body of Elizabeth Stride, the body of Catherine Eddowes was found in the corner of Mitre Square. Her throat was severed from ear to ear and her abdomen ripped open by a long, deep and jagged wound before her intestines had been placed over her right shoulder, with a section of intestine being completely detached and placed between her body and left arm. The left kidney and the major part of Eddowes' uterus had been removed, and her face had been disfigured. The police surgeon who conducted the post-mortem stated that these mutilations would have taken at least 5 minutes. A piece of Eddowes' bloodied apron was found at the entrance to a tenement in Gloucester Street at 2:55 a.m. Directly above was a chalk inscription upon the wall reading, "The Jews are the men that will not be blamed for nothing." Fearing that this graffiti might spark anti-Semitic riots, it was washed away before dawn. On the 1st of October 1888, the Central News Agency received a postcard allegedly from the killer. It read, "I was not codding, dear old boss, when I gave you the tip. You'll hear about Saucy Jackie's work tomorrow. Double event this time. Number 1 squealed a bit, couldn't finish straight off. Had not time to get ears off for police. Thanks for keeping last letter back till I got to work again. Jack the Ripper." This postcard has been the subject of debate as to its authenticity, with some experts claiming it a hoax, while others arguing that it contained knowledge that only the killer would know, and that it was written shortly after the murders. Another letter was sent to the chairman of the Whitechapel Vigilance Committee, George Lusk, postmarked on 15th of October and received the day after. It read, "From hell, Mr. Lusk, sir, I send you half a kidney I took from one woman, preserved it for you. T'other piece I fried and I ate, it was very nice. I may send you the bloody knife that took it out, if only you wait a while longer. Catch me if you can, Mr. Lusk." Along with the letter was half of a preserved human kidney, the author of the letter claiming to have fried and eaten the other half. This kidney was examined by Dr. Thomas Openshaw, who concluded that it came from a sickly alcoholic woman who died within the past 3 weeks, which would be consistent with Edo's murder. Thomas would then receive his own letter on the 29th of October, which read, "Old boss, you was right, it was the left kidney. I was going to operate again close to your hospital, just as I was going to draw me knife along a blooming throat. Them curses of coppers spoilt the game, but I guess I will be on the job soon, and I will send you another bit of innards. Jack the Ripper." Like the others before it, this letter is open to scrutiny and debate as to its authenticity. The Ripper's final victim of the Canonical Five was Mary Jane Kelly, and was by far the most mutilated. The mutilated and disemboweled body of Mary Jane was discovered lying on a bed in the room where she lived at 13 Miller's Court of Dorset Street at 10:45 on the 9th of November. Her face had been hacked beyond recognition, her throat severed down to the spine, and abdomen almost emptied of its organs. Her uterus, kidneys and one breast had been placed beneath her head, and sections of her abdomen and thighs upon the bedside table. The heart was missing from the scene. After examination of the body, it was determined that she had died between 2 and 8 a.m. and that the killer had taken 2.5 hours to eviscerate the body. Mary Jane Kelly is generally considered to be the Ripper's final victim, and it is assumed that the crime ended because of the culprit's death, imprisonment or emigration. But the Whitechapel murder files contain another 4 murders that were after the Canonical Five. The identity of the Ripper is unknown, though suspects proposed years after the murders include virtually anyone connected to the case by contemporary documents, as well as famous names who were never considered in the police investigation, including a member of the British royal family, an artist and a physician. To date, there has been well over 100 suspects, but authorities cannot agree upon any of them. The murders were never solved, and the legend surrounding these crimes became a combination of historical research, folklore and pseudo-history, capturing the public's imagination to this day. Hence why we all know the name Jack the Ripper.